Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I thought I would do another law video today. Welcome if you're new here, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. So I'm back today with a video about how to make notes for law. So this is going to be about everything that I would probably like to have known before I went into law, as is much the thing with a lot of these videos. So I'll try and help you know how to make good notes, how to have notes that will help you go into exams well, help you with all your revision and all of that, so you don't have to spend ages sort of like reformatting your notes and stuff before you go into exams. So just to clarify, I make all of my notes on Word, which you should get with your university. You should be able to sign in. Like, I haven't paid for it. I don't know how I've done it, but basically you can sign in and get Word. You don't have to buy it or subscribe. I think you have to do these days. But I know there are a lot of good note making apps and stuff that people can use. Another thing that I do use is I use Evernote, because it's really quick and easy for me to make a note on my laptop and then it's just in the app on my phone. So I don't sort of have to like do the transfer or like find it. It's much easier to locate a note and then I'll have it in both places, and that's more when I do like comprehensive notes that I want to have available to me on my laptop and on my phone. So let's get started. My first tip would be to keep all of your notes in one document for each module that you do, because I think when you end up splitting it up based on topic and having a document for each topic, or like cycle as they're called in my university, then you can't easily find information because a lot of it will link together from one module. So you'll have to be like flicking between loads of different documents and it will be quite frustrating. However, on the back of that, I would say split your notes up into topics within that document. So a lot of your reading and stuff will be split up into cycles or topics, and when you get to seminars and stuff, you'll be covering a specific topic, so then you can easily find that bit in your notes rather than it being like in the middle, and it sort of breaks your notes up into more like manageable bites than having it all in one document unseparated. Don't split them up by lecture, because obviously like having an hour lecture dictates how much they can fit into a lecture, and obviously they're not going to be able to fit a whole topic into one lecture or two lectures necessarily all of the time. It's much more useful to split up into topics than lectures. The only thing I would say is if you know that you're going to go back and watch lectures, then perhaps split it up into lectures as well as topic, because then you can go back and look at the notes you made for that lecture if you're going to rewatch them. But I personally didn't rewatch any lectures, so that's up to you. Another benefit of having them all in one place is that when you're in a lecture or a seminar or a syndicate or whatever they're called, then you can quickly search in the corner like a word that you're looking for or something that you've remembered writing before, and then you can find it really quickly and you'll have the information on your fingertips. You won't have to be flicking between documents and all of that. So my second tip would be make your lecture notes first and then do the reading after. I've already touched on this in one of my other videos, but I was sort of doing the reading before like they had sort of recommended really, and then I would have doubles in my notes of like lecture notes and then have the same thing written from my textbook reading. So I would say go to your lectures first, cover the material, and then do your reading afterwards, and just put in any extra bits afterwards that you think are important. Now, leading on from this, my next tip would be don't make too many notes. Obviously when you first start it's quite hard to know what's actually important, but as you get further on through the course you'll be able to highlight what's actually important and what you're going to need to know. But I would say bear in mind the exam format. So if your exam is multiple choice and like a problem question you don't need to be prepared for, then obviously your notes are going to be a lot different than if your exam is essay and problem question based. And if your exam is essay question based, then you're obviously going to need to be able to analyse the law and have like critical opinion and stuff. So bear that in mind, and I would say go into making your notes knowing what your exam format's going to be, and then you'll be able to optimise how you make notes specifically for that exam, rather than blindly gathering information and not knowing what's going to be important towards the end of the exam, and then it'll make it a lot easier when you come back to revise. You also need to find out which exams are open note early on, because obviously if you're taking your notes into your exams it's going to be quite different to if you're just going to have pages and pages of notes that you would have been making in your seminars and your lectures and from your reading. So this is probably something that you'll do as part of your revision, which would be condense your notes so that they're really easily accessible in exams and tab them according to topic topic and highlight them and all of that, but make sure you know which exams you're going to be able to take your notes into and bear that in mind when you're making your notes. Thinking about what the format of the exam is and whether you can take your notes in, then that will shape how you make your notes and how succinct they are if it's a multiple choice exam, how you format them if it's an open note exam. It will all play into how you should best make your notes. So leading on from that, don't gather too much information. In the long run, having too much information, I am guilty of this, it's just quite overwhelming. Like, it's just too much. So I had like maybe like near 100 pages on a Word document for my contract law, and in the end I'm just like, I don't want to look at all of this. So you're going to have to end up either making it more concise as part of your revision, but I would say try and do that as you're making your notes. But obviously, like when you're writing papers and stuff throughout the year, you're going to want some level of depth there, so you can go and look at the topic and sort of have like a rough idea of what you think, rather than just having like bare minimum facts. So it's about finding the balance of what's really important to have like extra knowledge on and where to sort of draw the line, and you're not writing word for word everything out of the textbook. So another thing that I've mentioned before in my other videos is scholars' articles are really important. So you'll be doing a lot of extra reading about what other people think of the law and all of that sort of critical analysis and all of that. Generally, what I would advise is make a 2-line summary in your notes with the topic and just say this scholar sort of like thinks this, because that's the sort of thing you'll have to be remembering in the exam. So just do a 2-line summary so you know roughly what that scholar said about that, and you could pop that into an essay if you needed to. And then what I also did was I had scholars' articles for each module, and I would do like a page summary, and I would take out really important bits and quotes and all of that in another document. So if we had to write a paper in the future that we got set, then I would have a more comprehensive overview of the article rather than just the 2 lines. Because if you've got more time to write a paper, like you've got either like 48 hours or like a few weeks, then obviously you're going to be expected to have much more comprehensive understanding of what that paper is. You've got all the really important stuff there, and you probably don't need to reread the article, or if you do, you can find really important quotes and you can think, oh, that section would be really useful to the point I'm trying to make. So you can Command F or whatever it is on not a Mac, and just search for that word in the article, and then you find that section, and it's so much easier than rereading the whole article. Also, another thing that I didn't discover until quite late on in the year, I would say towards the end of first year, is that you can Command F and just search for any word in a document. It doesn't have to be just on like a Word document. Like if you're reading a paper on like Westlaw or any of the other sites, or like generally a PDF as well, if you just Command F, you can search the document for any word. So if you have like a phrase that you've remembered, can't find it anywhere, or you're trying to cite something, just Command F it and it shows you exactly where it is. Now I'm sure everybody knows this, but that was amazing to me. Another tip I would say is really make use of headings and subheadings. So you can sort of split up information into component parts that you can sort of quickly identify the bit that you want to be reading about when you're looking over your notes again. Now with law at university, obviously at A levels, I don't think I really looked back at any of my notes, but obviously at university, like, your notes are going to be really, really important, so it's important that it's very readable and usable and you can use that information again. Obviously I also used revision books as well, but I still heavily relied upon my notes, so it's not the sort of thing where you just write loads of stuff down and don't really look back at it. Like, they are very, very important. Also, the final thing that I would say is when it comes to revision, it depends on your methods of revision, but active recall is very, very important for any type of revision if you want to commit stuff to memory. So I would also say when you go into law, consider not only how you're going to be examined, but also how you're going to revise for those exams and reflect that in your notes. So for me, I know that I use flashcards and I work really well because that's a really good form of active recall, and I like to have everything cemented in my memory so that when I go in the exam I know that it's all in my mind. So I would bear that in mind in how I was making notes and splitting it down, so that when I go back to revise to it, I can see the topics that it's split into and I can easily break that down into flashcards. So if you're the kind of person that's going to learn from your notes or try and learn your notes through active recall or whatever you do for revision, bear that in mind when you're making your notes, and make your notes accordingly and structure them accordingly to make it as easy as possible when you're going to revise to use the notes that you already have and not have to restructure them massively or cast them to one side because they're just so messy. So that is all of my tips and advice for making lecture notes and notes in general for law. This has obviously worked well for me so far. These aren't the only ways, but these are things I would like to have known, and I think they're probably broadly applicable, and that these will be things I'll be going into second year still doing. So I really hope that has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. There'll be more law content, extra content, lifestyle content, all of that, and I will see you in the next video.